إلى انتصار المأساوي وقصف العشوائي على المدارس والمستشفيات والبيوت وإعدام أعداد كبيرة من الشباب. كيف حالك يا حاجة؟ أكثر مرة نزحتي؟ 5 مرات. الصعوبات اللي شفناها ما واحد شاف، يا رب ما واحد يشوف. إحنا حط علينا نار حرب البيت. وأنا بقولناش طلع كل شيء ولا أبراج ولا غطا ولا مية نشربها. ولا أكل على زيت يومين 3 أيام كده بنظل من دون كده. والله صدق والله غلط والعينين والله غيرش. لحد ما الصدمات بطلت تشوف. من 4 أشهر ما شفنا الدواء ولا إحنا قادرين نشتري دواء. رجعنا 9 مرات. من مرة حتى من مرة. يعني ما قدرنا نشكر طلعنا ما فيش اكل ما فيش شرب ما فيش رياح ما فيش نوم. لأن من الأمراض اللي نقدر نعدها مستوجبة. الناس حالة الجو. ما يلاقين علاج وبنفس التربية ما فيش علاج. عند الكلى وعند القلب وعند شنف الوجدان تحملنا بالضشة في الشيء. بعد المؤسسة مصر فترة شفنا المعاناة اللي ما حد يشافها. كنت مرضتني كانت عندنا غير يوم دماغ ولد مع شم الغاز والغاز استشهد الولد. أول حبيبي الحمد لله سكر وكذا ان شاء الله راح البيت البيت عندي مريضه عندي بنت كبيره. في قطاع غزه تتعرض حاليا لحصار مأساوي وقصف عشوائي مستمر على البيوت والمدارس والمستشفيات واعدام اعداد كبيره من الشباب واكثر من 4000 شهيد في جباليا وبيت حنون وبيت لاهيا نتيجه العدوان عليهم واستمرار الاباده الجماعيه.
انا لي 14 شهر من اول حرب في الشمال والحمد لله صمدنا في الشمال. وكان الامور صعبه جدا جدا داخل شهرين الحرب هذه. كان النساء يمروا والاطفال بالاغراض اللي كان معهم واحنا وقفونا صاروا يزعقونا 5 ووقفوا على الثمرات. وهذه المرحله لحد الطريق والتوالي عليها كانت الامور سيئه جدا جدا. كنا نحط الطريق انه يكون لنا ما كانتش لنا. كان الطريق وعره. كانت الطياره اللي فوق كانت تطلع تخطف والصوره استوعبت اشخاص هنا من ضمنهم جارنا. وفي الاطفال صارت لا في مرض صارت كانت كل الامان اللي بيحكوا عنهم باي منطقه.
انا اليهود حرمونا عن كل شيء حتى الشوكولاته وحتى البسكوت وحتى كل شيء والشرب والمي وجيس ننقل كل شيء وضرب انتصر وكل يوم ننقل مي.
Thank you. Okay, we have one other video intervention coming next, which is from Luay Nasser. Luay is the country director of Supernova humanitarian NGO in Gaza. He's now in the south, so we've just seen testimony from the north of Gaza. This is now going to be an intervention from the south. It'll be our last video intervention before we move to the speakers in the room. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Luay Nasser, the country director of Supernova, French NGO based out in Gaza. Thanks for UK Gaza community for this opportunity to shed light on the devastating situation in Gaza Strip, especially Gaza North. Around 400,000 people being besieged in North Gaza, suffering alarming levels of food insecurity, lack of water, and there is critical signs of starvation are being reported. In addition, there is ongoing attempts of largely prevention of delivering aid by Israeli authorities that may trigger the market crisis. North Gaza Governorate has been besieged for over 1.5 months. Protection partners receiving calls from vulnerable people trapped in their homes and shelters who have completely run out of food and water. On the north of Gaza, still the force of airstrikes, including shelling quadcopter bombs, are very clear in north of Gaza. In the north, it has been reported that many families are missing with no contact established with them. According to our humanitarian actors in the north of Gaza, thousands of families still remain in the area, facing death and starvation. We need urgent, strong advocacy efforts, not just to statement, to protect women, children, and the elderly who are refusing to evacuate north of Gaza. Also, in the Gaza City, the situation is dire. The IDP need for food, which aren't available with the partner there. Also, the fuel delivery is still being denied by the Israeli authorities. The situation is still there, and people are barely managing to obtain the water from the remaining sources. As a humanitarian actor, we still committed and dedicated to help the Gazan people to keep surviving in this dire situation.
Great, thank you. Okay, we move now straight on to Hala Sabah, who is a British Palestinian from Gaza, and she's the London-based coordinator of the Samir project, which I'm sure she'll tell you more about. Would you like to come here?
Hi everyone. I just want to clarify, I'm not British Palestinian. I'm just Palestinian. Hi. No, it's fine. Hi, my name is Hala Sabah. I'm Palestinian. My mother is from Deir al-Balah in Gaza, and my dad is from historic Palestine, Haifa. I just wanted to clarify language, because language is really important. The Palestinian cause is not a humanitarian cause, it's a political cause. It is not a conflict, it's a genocide. It is not a famine, it is starvation. So everything that is happening is intentional, and the country that we are in right now is complicit in that. I am part of the Samir project. The Samir project launched in April as a mutual aid group to support people in Gaza, as a band-aid solution, because the expectations was that the world would do something about what's happening. Yet here we are, 14 months later, still providing aid. The challenges that we face with the Samir project is the availability of aid. Organizations like the UN, like the World Food Programme, like all these large NGOs are not doing anything. The World Food Programme had huge trucks full of flour parked inside of Gaza and not providing it to people until it's a few days away from expiration. Prior to the genocide, 400 to 500 trucks used to enter Gaza every single day. It dwindled down to 120 by this summer. Starting from October, it became 50 trucks every few days. 50 trucks for 1.9 million people. In those trucks, you would have quote-unquote luxury items. So you would have nurse gowns, you would have tissue, you would have biscuits with no real calories or nutrition. The reality is that Zionists are actually collaborating with people on the ground to make sure that these trucks are stolen. When Palestinians try to go and stop these trucks from getting stolen, a quadcopter comes down and shoots these people. So not only are they trickling down 50 trucks every few days, they're also making sure that it doesn't get into the hands of people. We run medical points and support medication for people. Basic things like antibiotics and gauze are not available, neither in the north or in the south. It is really, really, really difficult to get even painkillers at this point. We pay thousands and thousands just to buy the most basic things possible. And just a few days ago, a young 6-year-old girl called Batul Kafarne, who was under our care, 6 years old, died from celiac disease. So even something as simple as celiac and providing gluten-free food is killing children right now. So that is the reality on the ground. Purchasing anything is really, really expensive. In the north, to buy a few vegetables, it would cost us a few $100s. This is intentional. So imagine when we have a patient who needs sustenance, who needs food. Who's going to put a few $1,000s for one patient when there's 1.9 million people who are intentionally being starved? It's not a famine. It's not because there's no food. It's because the food is being prevented from coming in. So the Samir project tries to maximize what's available on the ground by supporting people, by running different projects. But the obstacles are there. The medications are not being let in. And this is all by the approval of this country, the UK, who a lot of the people in this room are citizens from. I also just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about, as Sarah mentioned, journalists. So we're going to show a short video. Video? Okay, that's fine. So this is Osama. Osama Abu Rubayya. Osama is a journalist, a photojournalist in the northern Gaza. And Osama turned 27 years old, 27 years just a few days ago. Osama lost his 19-year-old brother. Osama has a 22-year-old brother who is imprisoned. Osama was in Kamal Adwan Hospital when the siege, that is now almost 70 days, and got his camera, his laptop, his equipment, his hard disk. For any photographers in this room, you know how valuable hard disks are. You know how valuable the photos that you spent your whole life building are gone in 1 second. All of that was confiscated by Zionists, leaving Osama with nothing. Osama managed to leave Kamal Adwan, and his family was trapped in Jabalia. When they tried to get out, his dad was arrested. His dad, who's in his 70s or 80s, was arrested. A few hours later, Osama's dad was let out. They went down to Gaza City and went into a building. 4 hours later, that building got bombed. Luckily, they survived. Osama's mission is to deliver the message to the world. And for 14 months, we as Palestinians in the UK have been telling the media, the British people, over and over and over what's happening. So when I tell Osama I need a story to tell the British media, Osama's response is why? We've been saying it over and over and over for 14 months. Why would I need to tell more and more stories? Journalists, just as Sarah mentioned, just like you in the back of this room, are being targeted. 193 journalists were killed, including Iman al-Shanti, who was killed just yesterday. They are being targeted. They're not dying with a lot of other people in a bombing. They have quadcopters with cameras going into their bedrooms, looking at them and shooting them. So they are being targeted. Journalists are being targeted. And journalists like Osama are not only taking photos and telling the world what's happening. They also do mutual aid. They also do videos of little children to get them evacuated. They're involved in hospitals. They are involved in so many things. And Osama works with us on the Samir project. So he documents all the bombings that happen, but at the same time, he is doing mutual aid work using an old phone where the battery dies every hour because he doesn't have a camera, he doesn't have a phone, he doesn't have equipment. So it is the duty of journalists and of people in the UK who are paying taxes for this complicity to make sure that journalists are getting the care that they need. Just a few days ago, Osama was filming a bombing, and he was walking through the bodies. And then he saw something familiar, and he looked back, and he saw his uncle, Khalid, his mother's brother, as one of the people who were killed. So these journalists are suffering just like everyone else, and they're getting very little to no pay, no care, and no support from the journalist international community and from journalists in the UK as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right, we'll move straight on to Ahmed Najjar. Ahmed, I'll let you introduce yourself for the sake of time. And
Worried that we might make the same mistake.
well, I'm just reading what was on my paper. Please.
Thank you. And my name is Ahmed Najjar. I am an economist and a writer. And I was born and brought up in Gaza and Jabalia camp, and that's where my family were, I would say, until up to yesterday. So, as you know, it's been more than 2 months since the ground invasion began again in the north of Gaza, and specifically in Jabalia, which is a place that holds the heartbeats of my family's life. My parents, siblings, nephews, and nieces all lived there, and that's the home where I was born. It wasn't just a home, obviously, a house just for them. It was a sanctuary filled with love, laughter, and memories built over decades. So we actually have lived there more than 55 years. But then, obviously, the bombs began to rain down relentlessly. With days, it became clear that this wasn't just another military operation. This was something far more sinister. Israel's action in Gaza are not just a genocide. They are an ethnic cleansing, a deliberate attempt to erase an entire people. The north of Gaza is now nearly empty, stripped of its humanity, its life, and its soul. As the bombs fell and starvation took hold, my family faced an impossible choice. Staying was no longer an option. They left, except for my dad. He refused to go. At a checkpoint near Al Andonisi Hospital, my nephew Hussein told me over the phone about the horrors they endured. Men and women were separated, men stripped naked, humiliated, beaten, and shouted at. Some were taken, including my brother-in-law Mahmoud. My sister, his wife, Samah, clutching into her son Yusuf's hand, tried to shield him from this horror as she was passing by. Then a soldier grabbed her son, demanding she let go. She refused, holding him tighter. The soldier pointed the gun at them and shouted, "If you don't let him go, I will kill him in front of you, and then I will kill you." Can you imagine that? A mother facing the peril of a gun, told to abandon her child or watch him die. She fought to hold. She battled with the soldier as he was pulling him, and she was pulling back. And as her husband and brothers, my brothers, also stood were meters away, standing helpless, forced to watch this. In the end, an older woman intervened, pleading to my sister to let go. She said to her, they will kill us all if you don't let go. Let go, yalla, walk. Your son will return. My sister walked away. She had no choice. Her heart breaking with every step. Luckily, Yusuf, her son, who was 10 years old, was released later that day. But his father, Mahmoud, however, was detained and eventually released after 3 weeks in the south of Gaza, not in where his wife and family were and kids, in the south of Gaza. And as you know, people from the south cannot go to the north. My sister was faced with the choice whether to stay with her brothers and mom, or to risk her life and her children's life and go and reunite with her husband. She decided to go, and she finally reached there. My father, nearly 80 years old, older than the state of Israel itself, refused to leave. He said, I have been displaced too many times. I cannot do it again. We begged him, we pleaded with him, but he won't go. The bombs fall closer and closer. 2 massacres unfolded at Abu Hussein school, just a block from his home. When I finally reached him by the phone, I heard fear in his voice for the first time in my life. On December the 3rd, our neighbors, the Judah family, a father, mother, and their 4 children were killed when an Israeli F-16 bombed their home. The next day, Majd Judah, another neighbor who's also their cousin, was killed by a drone strike while he's searching for their bodies beneath the rubble. My father loved them like his own family, and their death actually broke him. On the 5th of September, I managed to call my father again. He was sobbing uncontrollably. I hadn't heard my father crying like that since 1991, when he carried my sister Amani's lifeless body after she was suffocated from the Israeli tear gas. Just a reminder for people who think it started on the 7th of October. 3 days later, Israel launched what they called a ring of fire, obliterating entire neighborhoods, which has killed another 2 families in the neighborhood, Qaoud and Abu Safiya family. My father's house was partially destroyed. A relative risked his life and took my father out to Kamal Adwan Hospital. By the 10th of December, the neighbors were forced out, leaving Jabalia lifeless and empty. My father finally joined my mother in the city, in the Gaza city. My father's story is not unique. Yesterday alone, 40 people were killed in Beit Lahia, where my sister is. Western media, of course, remains silent. I invite you all to go and check the BBC's Gaza Israel coverage page. Has not been updated for 10 days, and their main story is still about the Israeli soldier who was killed in Gaza on the 3rd of December. And after that also, more than 300 people were killed in the north of Gaza alone, and the Amnesty report has been released declaring that Israel is committing a genocide. And that is not included in that and has been ignored. For so long, I really thought that the journalists and politicians in the West compromised their values, principles, and professionalism to protect Israel. But now I really know that's actually who they are. They stand for colonization, they stand for racism, they stand for genocide. They are racist. And so today, I'm not here to ask the Western leaders or media to see us as human beings. That seems too much to ask for those who fund and enable genocide. What I will say in this is stop pretending, stop lecturing the world about human rights and democracy while turning a blind eye to the slaughter of innocent people. We see through your hypocrisy, you think you can break us, you think you can erase us, but you will not, and you will fail. And I will end it by what my dad said, and that's a picture of him after he had reunited with my family. Yeah. And he said, I'll say it in Arabic, لو أنا عرفت إنه كيف الطريق كنت ما رحتش، كنت فضلت إني أموت في بيتي، وهذا العالم على مزبلة التاريخ، هذا العالم الوسخ يروح على مزبلة التاريخ. شكرا.
Thank you, Ahmed. And now we'll go to Dr. Ibrahim. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for letting me speak as a live witness coming out of the war in Gaza, the ongoing war in Gaza. Before I start, I would like to add a very important comment added to what Hala said about the situation in Gaza. Actually, the Israeli government is using a cunning and foxy policy. It's called forcing the displacement of Palestinians out of Gaza by means of starvation, mass killings, and destruction of the health, educational, and infrastructure sectors. So that's their main aim, actually. My name, let me introduce myself and then I continue. So my name is Dr. Ibrahim Asalia. I was born in Jabalia, north of Gaza. I am holder of PhD in Media Studies and lecturer of Media Ethics. I work with the University of Palestine and University of Buckingham. I witnessed the ongoing war in Gaza since its start on the 7th of October 2023, as I was on a short family visit to my family there. Words can describe the dire and catastrophic situation Palestinians run through. I had to drink seawater. Rarely did I find bread or meat or vegetables to eat. My father died due to inhaling a gaseous substance the Israeli airplanes threw in the air. He died on the 22nd of October 2023 in front of my eyes. I will never forget this date, as my father meant a lot to me. I was a live witness of the ongoing masterminded atrocities in Gaza from 7th of October 2023 till I left Gaza on December 2023. That was at the start of the war. Imagine now how Palestinian civilians look like after a year of this unmerciful war, which does not differentiate between civilian and militant. Israel's siege of the north of Gaza has been ongoing for the last 3 months without mercy. This siege is pushing the area into famine, which may already be taking place, according to a new analysis published by the Famine Early Warning Systems Network, FEWSnet. Recently, I've been in touch with my family and cousins who reside in Jabalia city, north of Gaza, and they told me that they have not eaten bread or any kind of food since 3 months now. They are dying of hunger. Can you believe that in the 21st century, and with the vast human development, we still see innocent civilians starving, and we as a free world can't do anything? People in North Gaza are feeding on grass and trees. We are at the risk of famine officially declared in north of Gaza. Analysis warned that government decision makers couldn't wait for an official classification and should take immediate action to facilitate large-scale sustained delivery of food and nutrition assistance. The international starvation of the population and mass civilian casualties in Gaza Strip, especially North Gaza, is consistent with the characteristics of genocide, according to a separate 14 November report by a UN Special Committee investigating Israel's conduct in the enclave. Since early October, Israel has blocked almost all food supplies from entering the 3 northmost areas of the Gaza Strip, Jabalia, Beit Hanun, and Beit Lahia, while carrying out a brutal military campaign that has forcibly displaced the vast majority of residents. The Israeli military has said it has no intention of allowing the people who have forced out to return. At the end of October 2024, the UN's Human Rights Office warned that Israel's actions in North Gaza is causing the destruction of the Palestinian population, reminding Israel that it had been ordered by the International Court of Justice to refrain from committing genocidal acts. On 13th October 2024, the US gave Israel a 30-day ultimatum to improve the drastically worsening humanitarian conditions in North Gaza and throughout the enclave. This has never happened, and Israel is neglecting all humanitarian organizations and world governments' calls to stop the genocide and annihilation in all Gaza. The Israeli illegal and moral actions led to humanitarian conditions are as bad, if not worse, than they have been at any point during Israel's war in Gaza. My message to the media men, to the press personnel here from this room, to the free world, act now, before it's too late. Thank you so much.
So, yeah, we're just calling Dr. Muhammad Ashraf. Can you please come over? And Ahmed, you want to swap?
Yeah, that's it. What's that?
Yeah, final 3 speakers to come over. Thanks, Ahmed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but I'm just waiting for you. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Muhammad Ashraf. I'm an emergency medicine doctor who worked in Gaza, and I'm a lecturer of public health and healthcare management at the Islamic University of Gaza at the School of Medicine. I've graduated from Gaza. I've spent most of my life in Gaza, and I've been there during this genocide. Today, I'll speak about personal experience. I'm sure that you have heard a lot about the numbers of the hospital has been targeted. Next page. The hospital has been targeted, the numbers of healthcare workers who has been killed, and the atrocities among the healthcare system in Gaza. Yeah, this is the numbers. I'll not talk about the numbers, but I'm sure that everyone knows about these numbers. Today, I'll tell you about real stories that I have witnessed by myself. So in this picture, this is me watching my medical students in Turkish Palestinian hospital in mid of Gaza. They are presenting in the healthcare management course. The one who's sitting next to me, this is Dr. Fadl Naim. He's the only orthopedic surgeon now in Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital, covering surgeries from 5 a.m. in the morning till 11 p.m. And he just sleep from 12 till 5, then go back again to the theater doing surgeries from 5 till 11. And this has been going for more than 1 year now. He knows nothing about his family. He knows nothing about his wife and daughters. He knows nothing about all like other family members. His mom was killed during this genocide. His brother, his niece was killed as well, and he's still doing his job. Behind the scene, there is a medical student. His name is Izzeddin Lulu. Izzeddin Lulu was volunteering with. While he was volunteering with me, his family has been killed. All of his family, apart from his mom. Iz get out from a Shifa hospital after the siege and started to work in another hospital. And now he's establishing a foundation called Samir Foundation to support the medical students, same like him, who lost their families, who lost their homes, and this has been going for a while. Among these medical students, there are many of these medical students, they are volunteering in Nasser Hospital, in Al-Aqsa Hospital, in Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital, supporting the healthcare system there, doing jobs of consultants around the world doing, and their skills has been massively increased, and they have been qualified enough to do this because of the lack of the doctors inside the Gaza. In the next picture, the one who's in that picture, his name is Dr. Mus'ab Sam'an. I'm sure one of the cameras is not showing these pictures. Please move the cameras to the pictures so people can see these are real people, there's a real stories from a human inside Gaza. Mus'ab is my colleague. He's a teaching assistant in the Faculty of Medicine. He was abducted from Nasser Hospital in March. And the only offense that he has committed is volunteering to help his people inside the hospital. We know nothing about Mus'ab. His family know nothing about him. And we are not sure if he's still in the prison or he has been killed under the hard condition inside the torture. The other one in this picture, his name is Dr. Maisar Reis. He's my colleague. He's done his master's degree in King's College in London. He went back again to Gaza, worked with NGOs, same like me, to improve the healthcare system in Gaza. Do you know where's Maisar now? He's still under the rubble with his family. He has been killed in November with his family members, and he's still under the rubble till now. No one getting Maisar from under the rubble till now. In the next picture, this is Dr. Abdullah al-Badri in that picture. He's my colleague. He's an emergency medicine doctor. We have been sharing the same meal. I'll show you another picture while he was having his dinner with me. He went back to his home to get some food for his wife and his kids. Less than 24 hours later, he came back as a dead body to us. I wasn't able to replace his body because it was smashing. With his brother, Dr. Hashim al-Badri, he's an internal medicine doctor. In another picture, there's a journalist, same like you, who's interviewing me. His name is Rushdie Sarraj. This journalist, he has done an interview with me inside the Shifa hospital. After 2 days, I've seen the body of Rushdie. He has been killed while he was at his home with his wife and his 6-month-old daughter. The next picture. This is me and my colleague in the picture on the left, while we are having a small kind of rest after a mass casualty. We have been trained to deal with mass casualties, but not like this, not in these kind of numbers, not in these kind of type of casualties. And we have a rest, and this Abdullah al-Badri is lying in the bed, who has been killed a few days later. In the other pictures, this is my colleagues who are now still in the north, and some of them in the south. They are still helping their people with a minimum medical supplies. They are interventing now in new equipments used in the trauma room from nothing. Because you know why? Because there is no medical supplies coming into Gaza, and they have to do their best. Because when there is a lady holding your hand, crying, "Please save my son. He's the only son that I have." You have to do this. Even if you have no medical supplies, you have to do this. The next picture. The one who's sitting very close to me with the light blue scrub. This is Dr. Muhammad Ghani. He's my colleague. He's my classmate, and then we work together in a Shifa hospital. He has been killed 1 month ago with his father in the north of Gaza while he was going to Kamal Udwan hospital to help the people there. This photo and the food on this floor is one of the most luxurious food that we had during this genocide. It looks like a Thanksgiving day with a turkey in the middle, and we are enjoying this food. And this food is the most luxurious food that we have during this genocide. And if I want to mention this type of food, it's a cheese and egg that we have been eating. And we have made a big party because we managed to get this food. In the next picture. This is my daughter. In that picture, I haven't seen her for more than 50 days. She started to speak her first few words. She started to walk her first few steps. And I wasn't there because I was in the hospital. I know nothing about her or about her mom. I've sometimes tried to call another hospitals in the south, asking, have you received these names as dead bodies or as casualties? Then I can know if they have been attacked or not. This is the only way with the cut of the communication that I make sure that my wife or my daughter is still alive. In that pictures when I reunited with her in the south, this is the only way to move in the south because there is no fuel, there is no transportation. And now we are 2024. And this is the way that you can take your daughter in a ride around the city in the south of her. The next picture. In the first picture from this side, this is my mom uncle. I'm the one who declared the death of him. I'm the one who break bad the news for my mom, and then I went back again to work as if nothing happened. In the next picture, this is my mom and brother, Sharif. He's my uncle, his khali. I'm the one who treated him. I'm the one who took him to theater. I'm the one who handed him to the surgeon. Please take care of him. He's my uncle. And then I went back again to the ER to help the people. In the next one, this is my khali again. His name is Mahdi. He's my mom and brother. The third picture. He's my mom and brother. He went to the south, to the state zoo, and he has been killed with a quadcopter. The fourth one, this is my cousin. This is the daughter of Mahdi. Her name is Roa. She was in the north with her husband. She has been killed 2 weeks ago with her husband, son, and fetus inside her without seeing her dad who has been killed in the south months before her. And she has been killed with more than 20 family members. In the next picture, this is a Shifa hospital. This is the hospital that I have been trained in. This is the hospital that I have worked in. This is the hospital that I have a lot of memories inside this hospital. Even it's a bad memories, but it still means a lot for me. This is the place that we have a dinner in that place, in the picture in the right-hand side. It looks like a movie from where there's like a horror movie and there's something happened to this place. I'm sure if you let the Palestinian people to get the medical supplies, to get the food, to get what they want, they will rebuild they will rebuild this hospital better than it was before. But let them do this. Stop this genocide and let the Palestinian people to survive and to do what they want to do, just to live in peace without the stories that I've told you before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the organisers and thank you for being here today. My name is Mohamed Qureshi. I'm a vascular surgeon based in London. I chose to go to Gaza in April of 2024 because I learned that over 10 children lose one or more limbs a day in Gaza. In the middle area of Gaza at that time, there was no vascular surgery, which meant that more limbs were lost than were perhaps necessary, and the control of bleeding was suboptimal in these terrible injuries. Unfortunately, my entry to Gaza was delayed by 2 days, because 2 days prior to entering the hospital where I was going to be based at, it was bombed by Israeli forces. And the day before I entered, along the route that I would take, the 6 Royal Central Kitchen humanitarians were killed. We were the only team to enter Gaza the day we went in, as all other humanitarian workers had pulled out at that time. During the journey, it became very obvious. Rafah was still open in those days as we traversed the Sinai. The miles and miles and miles of aid trucks that were lined along the way that could not get in. Because of the 2-day delay, we stayed in Al Arish. And there we were privileged to meet many people who were sadly displaced, highly educated professionals. And one in particular sticks in my mind, a doctor who had fled Al-Shifa hospital but had been there within the hospital for more than 40 days before it was completely destroyed. They were forced to remain in the hospital during that time, but there were more than 200 dead bodies that were outside. And they were begging for permission to be allowed to go and bury their dead. This was not granted to them for some time. When they did receive that permission and exited the hospital in order to try and bury their dead, they were shot at and forced back inside. Shortly afterwards, forklifts arrived to remove these bodies. Men, women, and children uncovered dead bodies, and those bodies were not seen again. When I entered Rafah in April 2024, I was struck by the beauty of this old town. I remember in particular a mosque I became quite enamored with. It had a sky blue dome and purple minarets, and I'd never seen a mosque with purple minarets before. There were many buildings that were still erect at that time, but there were also millions of displaced individuals that were so overcrowded within this tiny, tiny town. There were more than 500 people sharing one bathroom, one toilet, and many thousands that were sharing one bathroom at that time. From Rafah, I entered Al-Aqsa Hospital in the middle area in Deir al-Balah, and this is what I saw there. A hospital that was normally home to 150 inpatients currently had between 700 and 1,000 inpatients within its small area. In addition, there were over 3,000 individuals that were sheltering in and around the hospital. This hospital was originally a maternity hospital that was never equipped to deal with mass casualties or major surgeries. Nonetheless, people were doing the very best that they could with whatever they had available. We were operating on body bags that lined operating tables. We had no surgical drapes. We were cutting holes within gowns, surgical gowns, in order to maintain as sterile a field as possible. I noticed very early that people seemed to feel much colder than I did. It was April, temperature was in the mid-20s, but they were wearing as many layers as they could, and I realized before long that this was because they were extremely hungry. I was prepared for the kind of gruesome war injuries as best I could be that I might see there, but what I perhaps hadn't prepared myself for were the consequences of complete healthcare collapse and the patients that were presenting extremely late with injuries and with illnesses that months earlier would have been entirely treatable within Palestine. These people could not be saved. The types of injuries that I saw at that time were predominantly blast injuries, shrapnel injuries, and then some gunshot injuries as well. The post-operative infection rate within Gaza at that time was approaching 100%. And there are so many reasons for this. The degree of overcrowding, the lack of hygiene, the fact that there was and remains to this day, there is no water supply into Gaza. There is no electricity. There are months that go by when any cleaning equipment or detergents are not available. There are very, very limited antibiotics, and there are no means within Gaza to be able to culture a wound, despite the high levels of antibiotic resistance. Let's not forget the degree of malnutrition that was already apparent in April 2024. The fact that people no longer have the reserves to fight basic infections. There are some things, however, that one cannot prepare for, and for me it was the number of children that I saw, that I treated, and that were within the hospital, severely injured. I remember in particular a young girl, must have been 8 or 9 years old, who was brought in by the neurosurgeons, and she had been shot through the right side of the head. She was completely paralyzed on the left side of her body. She was barely semi-conscious. And they retried the neurosurgeon there, a same neurosurgeon. He had been out of medical school for 18 months at that time. He was doing his best to save her, trying to perform brain surgery. But there are no saws or drills that are now allowed into Gaza. And I don't know if you can imagine what it is like to drill into the head of a child when you do not have a saw available. Before I went to Gaza, I was generically extremely upset and bothered and horrified by what I was seeing. Meager news that does manage to come through. But after leaving Gaza, I started fretting for individuals as well. And this prompted my return as soon as possible in October 2024. I have been back now for 19 days. On my return, we could no longer enter Rafah, as Rafah has since been invaded. However, we drove through Rafah, eventually on our way to the Khan Yunis. No buildings. I did not see a single one. I saw miles of rubble, complete destruction. So we're a post-apocalypse town. I stayed for a month within Nasser Medical Complex, and I saw nothing but destruction around me. I was still seeing the blast injuries and the shrapnel injuries, but I saw proportionately a much larger number of quadcopter injuries and gunshot wounds than I had previously. Gaza is a beautiful nation that resides in the middle of Europe, Africa, and Asia, and you see every hair color, every eye color, every skin color that you can. However, I noticed that everyone, particularly children, their hair had turned much lighter, and this is a consequence of protein malnutrition, starvation, and deprivation. The deaths that occur due to starvation, due to the fact that people have no resistance to disease anymore, because of the illnesses, the chronic illnesses that we are no longer able to treat within Gaza, these do not contribute to the injuries or the death tolls, but are a direct consequence of starvation being used as a weapon of war. I'd just like to add before I finish that this was not the north. This is South Gaza. I cannot begin to imagine the horrors within the north. And I wish that there were better coverage to keep us better informed and to know what more we can do in order to help. Thank you.
My name is Henry Bailey, and I'm a researcher focused on the arms trade. I'm going to speak briefly about the forthcoming report on Britain's military collaboration with Israel over the past 14 months. On Tuesday, Keir Starmer made a speech to troops at RAF at Batiri, a British military base on Cyprus. Starmer thanked the troops, saying, "Although we're really proud of what you're doing, we can't necessarily tell the world what you're doing here." Over the extraordinarily busy year that Starmer spoke of, one of Batiri's primary functions has been to serve as a logistical supply point for US military cargo for weapons going to Israel. Another primary function of the base has been to launch British surveillance flights over Gaza, which have been happening almost every day for the last 14 months. British-Palestinian Committee's forthcoming report demonstrates that Britain's military collaboration with Israel goes far beyond licensing arms exports, which is the common story that you hear in the country. As the report outlines, this means that Britain is not just failing to meet its third-party responsibilities to uphold international law, but that it is actively complicit in Israel's genocide under the Genocide Convention. The report identifies and analyses 5 areas of British military collaboration with Israel beyond the issuance of arms export licenses. First, the role of the British military and military industry in ensuring that the Israeli F-35 is mission capable and that it can continue to be used both over Gaza and in a wider regional war. Second, the financial and technological partnership between the British military and the Israeli military industry, which we detail in the report. Third, the use of British military bases on Cyprus as logistical staging points to move US and UK military cargo to Israel, as well as to launch surveillance flights over Gaza. Fourth, joint direct military intervention with the US in Yemen, which has killed an estimated 85 civilians since January of this year. Fifth, Britain's protection of Israeli military infrastructure during its ongoing escalation against Iran. I'll briefly discuss 2 of these areas of collaboration: the F-35 programme and the use of British bases on Cyprus. Britain's export of components for the F-35 is essential for Israel to be able to use the jets. We absolutely should not underplay this. As confirmed by the Pentagon's head of acquisition, the global F-35 programme has required, quote, surging sustainment support over the past year due to Israel's extensive use of the jet in Gaza and the wider regional war. Sustainment support is required because every hour you fly the F-35 requires more than 4 hours of maintenance and spare parts. According to the CEO of Lockheed Martin, the lead company in the F-35 programme, Britain makes significantly more than 15% of every single F-35. This means that British parts are essential to the regular repairs made by Israel, which it has to do continuously to keep using its jets. Although most of Britain's exports and spare parts go through the F-35 global programme, which is led, run and coordinated by the US, the British military has played a more active role in ensuring that Israel has access to these parts over the last 14 months. Cargo documents reported on by the investigative news sites Declassified and The Ditch revealed that RAF Marham in Norfolk has been used to send F-35 parts directly from Britain to Israel at least 7 times over the past year. But British military bases on Cyprus have been even more essential than Marham to Britain's military collaboration in this genocide. Flight tracking data presented in the report shows that British and US military heavy transport aircraft, including the Atlas C-1 and the C-130 Hercules, have made constant journeys from Akrotiri to Israel throughout the past 14 months. Haaretz reported on the movement of 60 US and British military transport planes to Akrotiri to facilitate a weapons airlift to Israel in the weeks after October the 7th, but it's escaped significant attention in the British press, which normally focuses on the issue of arms export licenses. Flight tracking data also shows that the British Shadow R1 aircraft is used to make continuous surveillance flights over Gaza from Akrotiri 6 days every week. They tend to take Saturdays off. Support for the F-35 programme and the use of British bases are only two ways that military collaboration with Israel over the past year has been much deeper than acknowledged in most press coverage. The British Palestinian Committee's forthcoming report will detail specifically how that collaboration has taken place in each of those 5 areas that I mentioned. Thank you.
So much to speak, particularly who come and spoke to you all today from Gaza, families in Gaza, for the incredible courage. I think it needs to be said that you shouldn't have to be here talking about these things. It shouldn't have to be. These things should be happening in the first place. We should be having to come and share these stories of horror. But it's really important because there is this media blackout. We need to make sure that this changes and ultimately comes to pass. So I think also just to mention that, you know, as lots of people mentioned, as we mentioned at the start, Kevin also very helpfully summarised there, that this is a situation in which the British government is deeply, deeply complicit and involved. Not only the past decade, the past year, not only the past decade, but more than a century, because we know that this started British colonisation before British colonisation. So, as such, we know there are clear moral and legal responsibilities that the government has to heed and uphold. There are clear policy demands from Palestinians, from the British Palestinian community, ranging from immediate 2 rounds embargo to provision of family reunification scheme for families united. Just as the BBC and the British Palestinian Committee recently launched a policy framework for the government, which details lots of these and you can find on the website. And I also wanted to mention as well, of course, that lots of testimonies here today, lots of facts, lots of figures, lots of names. Anything that you need to follow up with, we've got Nick over there in the corner, it's very clear for everybody to see. I don't know why they're not sick for it, I come in this corner here. So if anybody needs anything immediate after this press conference, then please ask them. Now, we've got a little bit of time left for a few questions answered. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this logistically with the microphone, but I think maybe we can take a few questions at a time, and then from there, see if we get to in case anybody has any questions before we wrap up. Any questions? Yes. And if you when you sign it, you can obviously give me your name, affiliation. My sort of question would be right.
So my name's Mark. I'm a digital media reporter at CNN based in London. Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time You've given us a lot to think about. I had a question specifically, well, it was for Dr. Ashraf, but also for the rest of the panel if you have any thoughts. It's about Israel's detention of healthcare workers in Gaza. We know that at least 1,057 health workers have been killed as a result of last October. The Ministry of Health reported that today. And most recently, that includes Dr. Saeed, who was shot by an aircraft on the next day while coming from Kamal on one hospital to we also know that Israeli forces have retained at least 319 health workers, 3 of whom are most of died in protest attacks, according to Gaza's government media office. I just wanted to ask you, what kinds of specific allegations have health workers